Hi there. So today I wanted to talk about what I keep in my rabbit first aid kit, or we'll call it rabbit first aid kit for lack of probably a better term. But these are the things that I keep around to have on hand for the different things that crop up in the rabbitry. They're actually pretty basic, pretty low cost. I will say that I usually tend more towards natural and kind of home solutions for a couple of reasons. One, antibiotics have recently within the last year become more stringently regulated in the US. You used to be able to go into say a farm store or whatever and get what you needed for treatment for your livestock, and now you can't do that anymore without a veterinarian's prescription or buying from a veterinarian. I personally don't really use vets for the rabbitry because what I do instead, and this is what probably especially most larger breeders do, is concentrate on selecting good hardy breeding stock, keeping the rabbitry, clean and well maintained so that the rabbits, if an issue does occur, hopefully they're from stock with a strong enough immune system that it doesn't become a great issue. I would cull out anything with any question of a respiratory issue. It's just something that even with antibiotics, you're probably not going to get a long-term handle on. It's something you want to get out of the rabbitry altogether. So that's a little bit of a conversation for a different day, but it does give you some idea of where I'm coming from when I'm selecting the products that I'm keeping on hand. So another reason that I prefer to go with these more natural type solutions, one is cost. This is all cheap, easy to keep on hand. You can get it in a second if you don't have it, and solve most of the major problems you're going to come across in the rabbitry. And if your problems are something beyond that, you have a bigger issue to deal with that is probably a culling situation. Could talk more on that another day, but let's get into this a little bit. One final thing I wanted to mention is that the other reason I prefer to go this way is because, any medication is going to have an expiration date. Antibiotics, they expire. You've got to keep them refrigerated. And hopefully you're actually using these things very seldomly. To be honest, my two most common, and they're not that common, issues are nest box eye and ear mites, which are not a big deal. No more serious than pink eye or fleas would be on your pet. So, I don't want to be over invested in a lot of medications and products that I'm probably never going to use. So, these are all just basically household products that you can get a hold of, keep on hand, and don't really have to worry about expirations. So let's take a look at some of what I've got. Let's see, the thing that I probably use the most of is a mixture of mineral oil. I have a jug of this in my house that I use for a few things actually, and then I make up a bottle of mineral oil and I put about 2 droppers full of tea tree oil in it. This is primarily used for ear mites. I do know a lot of people like ivermectin, a more, say, medication centered. Absolutely, I'm sure that works. I don't have a problem with people using it. It's just that this is a lot easier to keep on hand, and this works too. It actually works great, and it's quick and easy. I can keep it here all the time. And when I find a rabbit with some mites, that sometimes happens a few times a year. I do find it happens more in the cool, humid weather, and when you get a lot of wind and stuff blowing things into the rabbitry. You might have an issue or two. You put a couple drops in the ear, you keep up with it for a week or so, repeat it in another week just for good measure, and you're good to go. Cheap, easy to keep on hand. You can actually do this without the tea tree in it. I like the tea tree because it does have some antifungal, antibacterial, antimicrobial properties, and the tea tree is thought to be repellent to insects as well. So just gives you a little more bang for your buck and a little protection for those ears. The mites in and of themselves usually aren't too big of a deal. But if they're scratching a lot and the ears, are getting dirt in there from the scratching, you might have some bacterial issues, and that's where the tea tree just kind of gives it a leg up. So this probably sees the most use, and by most use, I'm saying I probably use this 3 times a year. Depends on the year. We've had super rainy years the last year or so, so it's gotten more use in the last year than normal. I like to keep also VetRX for rabbits. So this is basically a solution similar. It's with some essential oils. You can use this actually for ear mites, and I have, and it works super like that for that, just like the mineral oil and tea tree oil. So, if you wanted to get rid of one, you could actually just do the VetRX and not keep this on hand. Can usually find this online. I can find it locally at my farm store, but not everybody can. So, what I usually use this for is that if I have a rabbit that is sneezing, and again, if I really thought it was an illness, that would be a cull for me to get it completely out of the program. And sometimes if I question if it's just allergies or a sensitive rabbit, that still might be a cull for me, because rabbits, the respiratory issues are too much of an issue that even if it is caused by an allergy, it shows a weakness that I don't want capitalized on should an infection come through somehow. So VetRX, like I said, it's got a variety of uses. You can read the package insert for more. But I did have a rabbit once that seemed to have a fair amount of allergies to dust and hay. And when that popped up, a couple drops in the water, and it makes them more comfortable, and it kind of stopped that sneezing. I will say again, that rabbit got culled. It wasn't something I wanted to keep in the program, but a good product to have on hand for a variety of uses. You can see I have an open one usually. I find this in one of my coat pockets, because who knows, you use it, you put it in your pocket, that's where it stays. I like to keep a salve, like a heavier salve. So this is Raleigh Saw. It's a petroleum-based salve. This does have turpentine in it, so it has some antiseptic value to it. Doesn't see a lot of use in here, but what it does get used for is if I have a rabbit that has some sore hocks, or if a rabbit has a bare spot. Sometimes, they can kind of, sometimes the bucks and does will pull fur from each other, and it's usually not an issue, but if I'm not sure what it is, why that bare spot's there, I'll just dab some of this on, and it's no big shakes, and it's gone. Sore hocks don't happen too often in here because I do keep rest mats in all the cages. See a rest mat there. Gives them a chance to get off the wire. The only one I've really had an issue with is an older doe. As she kind of got older and her skin was a little bit more sensitive and broke down a little quicker. But again, easy to keep on hand, something to keep on hand. Now, if you were questioning, I did look up, and according to their website and online, the turpentine is safe for animals. I know that we've used it on dairy cattle. It did amazing things on some dairy cattle that we had that cut some teats and split some udders. Really just super impressive stuff. We couldn't believe what it actually saved that cow from. So it is supposed to be safe. If that makes you nervous, a bag balm would be another option, or just a regular Vaseline. So, I'm usually just using this when I want something heavier that's going to stay on the animal for a while to help kind of moisten and heal up the skin. So that's when those usually get used. Again, they don't get used that often. That's why I've got dust on a lot of this stuff. Triple antibiotic cream, or ointment, not cream. This is the other product that gets used most often in the rabbitry. This and the ear mite, the mineral oil for the ear mites. And that's because of nest box eye. If you've watched the recent videos, we dealt with some nest box eye. We had that one single kit out of, I think I had about 30 at the time with 3 different does. And this did a good job of cleaning that up. I do also keep some chamomile to make a tea that has some antiseptic properties of its own and is drying and helps draw out that infection. Again, if you look back at those videos, you'd see me soaking and wiping the eye with that. It's not something I keep in the actual box in here because it needs to be steeped and it needs to be warm to work. So that's something that comes out of the kitchen when I need to use it, but it is something else that I have around. So AAA antibiotic ointment. I like this for the nest box size. Just make sure that it is one with no pain relief in it, because the pain relief like lidocaine, that is toxic to rabbits. Probiotics are something that I have around. Now people use this for various uses. I don't use it often because I don't find a need for it in my rabbitry often. The times that you would use it, you might want to put some in some water before you're going to wean kits off, just to help give their bellies a boost if you have animals under stress, or you're questioning, you know, like a GI stasis or another gut issue or digestive issue. That would be a good time to sprinkle some in the water. These are powders, or I guess this one's capsules. Sometimes I have the packets of powder. And you just break it open and sprinkle a little in the water. You're good to go. Let's see, apple cider vinegar. There is a whole other video on this. You may have seen this. Primarily for me, I use in the water every so often when I feel like there's getting a little too much sludge in the urine, or I want to give them a boost and just kind of preventatively give their urinary tracts a boost and a clean out. I'll put apple cider vinegar in the water. There are other uses that other people use it for, so check out that video and article, and there's more on that there. Let's see, what else have we got? We've got some coconut oil. So coconut oil is sometimes used as an ointment on the eye, or to help keep eyes open when I have nest box eye issues. Also is another one that's a little heavier, could be used as a natural salve if you didn't want to use something like Raleigh Saw, Bag Balm, or Vaseline, and wouldn't be petroleum based. So if that's something that is concerning for you, that's a good option. In this bag, no big shakes, just some Q-tips. Just helps sometimes apply some of these ointments, especially if I have to treat several kits at once. You know, something that I can quick throw away and sanitize my hands in between. This helps move things along. For, say, maybe ear mites, although I usually do a dropper with that, or nest box eye if I was trying to put ointment to more than one. Cotton balls. So cotton balls, you know, they're cotton balls, so there's tons of use for them. One of them being soaking and cleaning the eyes. Usually when I make that tea, if I have nest box eye, I'll put a couple cotton balls in that warm water while it's steeping, take them out, use them to clean up the eye, and they're good to go. But the other thing that I keep them around for is if you have a doe that does not pull enough fur for a new nest of kits and you need something in there to replace the fur, you can pull them, stretch them apart, put them in there, make a nice bed. Another good thing to have on hand just for that. I like to colloidal silver. You saw in one of the other videos. This is something that a lot of rabbit keepers use. I've just recently got it and tried it out a little bit on the nest box eye. There's a few uses for that. It is something that a lot of people like to keep on hand for various uses, antiseptic type of uses, and you know, especially for nest box eye. And finally, let's see, I think I got a couple more things here to mention. One is just, you know, when I'm retiring some hand towels and stuff, I usually collect a few in the rabbitry. My rabbits I usually just handle them, but sometimes, especially if there's young children around or something, then I wrap the animal in it so they're not getting scratched, or I might do that when I have to treat an animal to keep myself from getting scratched. Keeps them calmer, wrapped up, and good to go there. Just some other rags or something if you need to soak, wipe, that kind of thing. And somewhere here, and unfortunately, here we have it, nail clippers. So my grow outs don't get their nails clipped because they don't stay here that long, but the does and breeding bucks will need this done a few times a year just to keep them short, keep them from ripping them on the wire and causing themselves damage. So that in a nutshell is the first aid kit for the rabbitry. If there's something that you use, think we should add, or want to talk about, please leave it in the comments, and come on over to meetrabbits.org where we have the full article and more details on different uses for some of these products.